So, I heard you're looking for a go-to source for entertainment.
Wait for it.
Gaming?
Wait for it.
Anime?
Plus Ultra!
Mr. Eric Almighty and Phil the Filipino? Yeah, they've got you covered. And all you gotta do is... wait for it. This is the Wait For It podcast.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Wait For It podcast. I am your co-host Phil Barrera, aka Phil the Filipino.
And I'm your other co-host, Mr. Eric Almighty. And for this episode, we are going to be talking about Spirited, a movie that Phil has been trying to get me to watch for the longest time, and we were late to the party.
Yeah, you know, it has been my goal in life to get everybody to watch as much Apple TV as possible. We finally got Severance out of the way earlier in the year, and now, since it is the holiday season, we finally are getting around to Spirited. I believe... I would have to go back and check. I think I covered this on Netflix and Phil, but I'm not 100% sure. I may have already sunset Netflix and Phil by the time December came around when I did watch this. But, Eric, it's got a lot of things that we really enjoy when it comes to films. It's got some catchy music. It's got some actors that we like in terms of a really good cast. And, you know, holiday films are always a good time. I'm interested to see, like, how you feel about when it comes to Christmas movies, holiday films, stuff like that. Like, I mean, we watched Klaus, what was it, like a year or two ago, and I think in terms of a really beautiful story, that did that very well. But in terms of, like, what I'm looking for in a Christmas movie is just something that's fun, that makes me feel good, has a good message, and I think, like, Spirited did a pretty good job with that.
I think it's hard to reinvent the wheel when it comes to Christmas movies, and it's funny that we're talking about this particular film, because it's a story you know and love, but it's told in a different light, and I definitely appreciated that. And I think that is hard to do, Phil, because there are so many of the same Christmas themes, beats, etc. that all of these films essentially hit. I was very pleasantly surprised with what I saw as far as originality, and there's a couple things we'll get into. I think, Phil, for this episode, this movie recently came out. It's not too far back into the past, so we'll probably have like a spoiler-free portion here before we discuss some of the twists and turns that this movie unexpectedly took.
Yeah, some really solid surprises that I also was not expecting upon first watch as well. So, gonna get into all that here in just a moment. I want to welcome in any brand new listeners to the podcast as well as returning listeners. Hope you've had a great year so far, and we appreciate all of the support as we continue into this very, very busy season for Eric and I over the next couple of months. It's going to be jam-packed with content. We got a couple conventions on the horizon as well, so cannot wait to see all of you there, as well as continue to interact with all of you through with the podcast. So if you want to know how you can reach out to us via social media or anything else like that, make sure you stick around to the very end of the episode. We'll cover all of that for you. But Eric, let's just jump into this here with Spirited. Came out in 2022, directed by Sean Anders. I'll give you a quick letterbox synopsis. Each Christmas Eve, the ghost of Christmas Present selects one dark soul to be reformed by a visit from three spirits. But this season, he picked the wrong Scrooge. Clint Briggs turns the tables on his ghostly host until Present finds himself re-examining his own past, present, and future. So, like you said, Eric, with that synopsis there, very, very familiar story. And one that I went into this totally blind, not knowing. The only thing I knew about it was that it was a musical. I know in 2024, I mean, this movie came out a couple years ago. For some reason, there's this like weird, I don't want to say hatred, but maybe it is hatred towards Ryan Reynolds because of his shtick, and some people are just kind of tired of it. And I'll be honest with you, like I don't think Ryan Reynolds has ever hurt anybody. Like I don't think he's ever been malicious or anything like that. I think he comes off very well in that show with Rob McElhenney, the soccer show, the Fulham show. I think as far as that goes, like I don't know how you could watch that and be like, man, I hate that guy. So if the Deadpool movies aren't your thing, totally fine. If his brand of humor aren't your thing, I get that. But I think if we start anywhere when it comes to Spirited, Will Ferrell, Ryan Reynolds, a duo that I'm pretty sure has worked together before, but I thought they were pretty delightful here in Spirited.
I would agree with that. I think cast-wise, it's a fun cast, and it's a fun trope on your typical, Charles Dickens story. I definitely appreciated everything they did there that I know we'll dive into a little bit deeper, but I would agree. And the fact that it's a musical definitely plays to the movie's strengths in some aspects. I definitely think we're going to talk a little bit about that as far as judging it as a musical, but in concept, I really do like that. So there were a lot of things going for this film, jumping into it, and I, Phil, did not know that this movie, had that type of hate with Ryan Reynolds attached to it, or score-wise, how it was kind of received when it came out. So very curious what your initial impression of this was and what made you press play in the first place.
Yeah, well, constantly being on Apple TV, I'd always seen this pop up. I remember when it came out, and I just it wasn't really... I truly don't watch a lot of Christmas movies, even around this time of year. I'll have my go-tos that I'll put on in the background, but it's not like a tradition of mine. So when I finally sat down, I think it was just last year actually that I watched it. When I put it on and I watched it by myself, and then immediately was like, oh my gosh, I gotta watch this with my sister and my daughter, and they also enjoyed it as well. The music is in constant rotation. It's been in the playlist before. So once again, when it comes to these Christmas movies, not really looking for anything too crazy, but it does have that twist that we'll talk about a little bit later, that are actually a couple of them. They pull off two pretty good surprise twists here in this movie, and just what I did not expect. And that's what really took this to the next level. If this movie were okay, I probably would have never recommended it, or maybe would have watched it once more with my family because of the music, but it probably would have then just kind of left my mind after that. But because we're talking about it a year later, and I've still very much listened to the music and think about it and talk about that twist, that's why it's ended up here, because it did leave a mark and it probably will end up in the rotation in terms of Christmas movies whenever I do decide to put one on. Is this a Jingle All the Way? maybe not, but you know what, Jingle All the Way could have used some music actually, now that I think about it. But is it gonna is it like a Home Alone? No, certainly nothing like that, but I think a good time and worth people's time if you're looking for something new to watch around the holiday season. It's also not very long, if I remember, a little bit over 2 hours, so it's a pretty decent runtime. It's no 2 hours and 40 minutes like Wicked, but it's just it's a nice fun watch.
You're gonna fucking piss me off, dude. Oh my god, you're gonna piss me off because we're gonna talk. I knew you were gonna do this, and the fact that you know what? Listen, as far as I'm concerned, I think there are definitely some things about the runtime we'll get to here in a minute, but focusing on the positives, I personally think that one of the wide appeals is that Will Ferrell, Ryan Reynolds, back and forth banter, which really carries this movie. I mean, their relationship from start to finish is definitely the core of this film. And without the two leads working, it just isn't going to be a film worth watching. So I think the wide appeal of both of these actors brings you in. And then when you actually see them together and the relationship they have in this particular movie, I think it really blended well. So I think there's a lot of things going well for this movie to have long-term appeal. And as far as me, is this going to be a movie during the holidays that I put on? Not necessarily, but if it's on, I'm absolutely going to be watching it. So it's one of those things where I really enjoyed it, but there are some things here and there that definitely could have been improved upon. So really, really curious to see, what some of those critiques are. And again, you bringing up Wicked already off to a bad start. So what other positives, Phil, are you wanting to kind of call out here before we talk about maybe some things we didn't like?
Yeah, we already kind of discussed it here, and you all have obviously also texted me about your specific feelings about a song in Spirited, or lack thereof, I guess I should say. I know musicals aren't necessarily everybody's thing. Obviously, it's kind of like the root core of this podcast is musicals and musical theater. But I thought it had some really, really solid songs. Do I listen to all of them? No, definitely not. But some of them are, especially in terms of presentation, really, really great spectacle. Some of them really lend themselves to just kind of putting on in the background, putting on in the car, while others need to be watched and viewed in the movie. But I thought the songs were done very, very well. I saw one of the reviews on Letterboxd saying that I think Ryan Reynolds was so irritated hearing about The Greatest Showman that he shoehorned himself into a musical so he can say that he has also been in one. And yeah, if you're kind of worried, I don't know how much singing people have seen Will Ferrell do or Ryan Reynolds. Solid singing voices. Remember, all these actors and actresses at their core are musical theater nerds, and most of them can carry a tune. So if you're worried about what does Will Ferrell's singing voice sound like, you'll be pleasantly surprised, I think. But yeah, a lot of really good, I think, catchy songs, and once again, songs that I do put in my holiday rotation throughout the year.
Yeah, I think for me, I'd be curious to know what your favorite songs are, because for me, one of the most egregious things in this film is that the song Ripple is at the end. It's a cut song, and it's left for the after credits. And I gotta say, Phil, the music is alright. The music's alright. Judging it as a musical, there's really only two songs I'm ever gonna come back here and listen to, and that's Good Afternoon and Ripple. And Ripple is so good, which I'll get to in a minute, like why I feel this way. Talking about The Greatest Showman is really funny because I'm going to bring that up. But Ripple is like head and shoulders the best song. I actually was like fuming listening to it at the end because I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Where it would have happened in the film would have been a you got me moment. Like when I watch The Greatest Showman, Come Alive is all right, I'm in. When I watch Wicked, Dancing Through Life, I'm in. If you would have put Ripple into the film where it was supposed to be, I would have been hooked. I think it would have absolutely been a positive addition. Very curious, though, what your favorite songs are.
Yeah, I in terms of a presentation to start the movie, I like Christmas Morning Feeling. It's not one that I have in my rotation. I also like Unredeemable. You don't like Unredeemable?
I mean, it's not that I don't like it. I think they're all right. I think they're above average when
Sure.
we look at like musicals. And again, part of that also has to do with the fact that Will Ferrell and Ryan Reynolds are good, but they're not like great. They're not, and nor should they be, right? But Ripple is really good. Like
Ripple is the best song.
It's
Ripple
the best
is the best song. A Good Afternoon is a lot of fun too, especially watching it is really, really good too. But yeah, I really love Unredeemable. But no, Ripple is the best song, and you could cut out definitely some other stuff to put Ripple in. So the fact that that ended up on the cutting room floor is really strange. I've never looked into why, because it's not like when you watch it, it's not like it brings the film to a screeching halt or anything. It's an upbeat, very catchy song. It's pretty much has everybody involved except for Ryan Reynolds. So I don't know why it was cut. And it's a pretty important message pertaining to what Will Ferrell's character was trying to do. So it is so strange that they cut it out of the movie when you could have cut out other stuff.
Yeah, 100%. And I think there's the running gag of like, oh my God, there's a musical number. Like it's very self-aware.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. It is, and it would have worked perfectly. So I definitely think that is worth calling out. And, you know, before we get into spoilers, because I think there's a lot there that we want to dive into. So those of you that have watched the film, stick around for that here in just a couple minutes. But I think, Phil, this movie, and maybe this also talks to the musical numbers, I think this movie kind of struggles within a 2-hour time frame when it comes to just being funny and then also having a message to really say. So like some of those more serious moments I think are underutilized because there's so many jokes and there's like so much humor throughout the entire film. I think it has a weird balancing act, especially because there's a pretty dark moment in this film, which I think is effective for the message that is trying to be sent, but it's not effectively done to make me feel like it was warranted to have happened. So I think I'm curious when we get into spoilers, exploring that a little bit more. Overall, though, these are all things that stop this movie from being great, but I really, really enjoyed it. It was a good film. So at the end of the day, like, this is absolutely a movie. If it's on the television, I'm going to get kind of sucked in and watch it. But it's just one of those films I don't think I'll ever really go out of my way to see. So curious, as we talk into spoilers, to dive into that a little bit more.
Yeah, one thing that I think is certainly going to, I don't know if it's like frustrating or irritate people. Like you said, there was a very dark moment in this, and it's playing into cancel culture and all of that stuff, and people are going to be like, ugh, woke, like all that crap. Like, I understand the message that they were trying to portray, and there certainly is an avenue in which, like you said, that fits into what they're trying to teach people in Spirited, but a Will Ferrell, Ryan Reynolds vessel is maybe not the best way to do that, right? Because what they're saying is, yes, it's very true. Like, you don't know what anybody else is going through. Treat your bullies the right way. I don't know. I don't believe in that part. But, like, there is a message here that can be delivered properly, not by Ryan Reynolds and Will Ferrell. So, I don't know. Maybe Octavia Spencer could have been that vessel. I thought she was very good. We didn't really discuss her too much. But, really, if you look at the cast, I mean, it couldn't have been Tracy Morgan. That's for sure. So, what they were trying to do, totally understand. And I think it works in some instances, but not here. And when we talk about our scores, I'm pretty sure we're probably pretty even, because again, this is not some sort of holiday masterpiece, and I don't know that it's possible to make one in 2024 here at this point. Red One failed, then who's if The Rock can't do it, then who can, right? But
Jesus, yeah,
But no, I think that's going to turn some people off that are like, that think everything has to have some sort of message and all that nonsense. But I still thought it was, again, like you said, really solidly done. Will it be an every year watch? Probably not. But like you also said, if it's on, definitely we'll sit down and watch it. We'll listen to the music. One thing that we haven't discussed, isn't really a spoiler, the best part of the film is when Will Ferrell is coming downstairs to the Christmas party, runs into the person in the elf costume and tells him, "You look stupid." It's the best part of the film for me.
That was a good time. That was good. I think as we go over scores, like how the movie was received, and we rank our scores, also compare it to other late to the party entries, and then we'll do the more like this as well. We'll jump into spoilers. We'll kind of really deep dive into it, but again, I think that this is a movie absolutely worth giving a shot, and I think it'll surprise you. I think that's really the message that I walked away with. Is it surprised me in several different areas, let me down in others, but again, we'll kind of dive into that here in a moment. So Phil, how was the reception to this particular film? And then let's jump into our scores.
Yeah, as far as tomato meter score, 70%, and as far as critics, and then 80% popcorn meter score. So pretty solid on that front. On Letterboxd, not very popular, a 2.9 over there. A lot of varying reviews when it comes to people that actually left written reviews on this. Some of them negative 3 stars for including Jimmy Fallon twice. Actually, I I agree with that, and it's actually going to affect my score. But a lot of these reviews are all over the place. But overall, I gave this a 3.5. I think it's like you said, a little bit above average. It's a lot of fun, and in a time where we either get some Hallmark movie about a woman who puts a scarf on a snowman, it comes to life and falls in love with him, and Red One, at least we have a fun movie like Spirited to watch. And again, it's on Apple TV, so I think this would probably be better production wise and presentation wise if it were released on a big screen and it was not an Apple TV production. If you want to still include Ryan Reynolds and Will Ferrell, great, but you probably need a powerhouse like a Hugh Jackman, not necessarily him, but somebody along those lines. And this probably could have maybe gone to the next level. But as the presentation on Apple TV on a streaming service, it's a 3.5, and I think it's a fun time.
That's exactly where I ended up, was a 3.5. It's a fun time in the sense that not only would I recommend it, but again, if it's on the television, I'm going to be sitting down and it's going to catch my eye. It's going to catch my attention. I think judging it as a musical, it is not overwhelmingly strong. It's above average, and I don't think that's a bad thing. As a Christmas movie, I liked some of the twists and turns that we took that we're about to get into, but I think overall 3.5 is the best possible score for a film like this. And as far as where it ended up in movies we've watched from late to the party, I have this under Klaus. I have this under Nope, but I have it above films like The Big Sick and Indiana Jones, like Raiders of the Lost Ark. Also above Real Steel. Sorry, Hugh Jackman. So that's roughly where it is in my list, Phil. Where did yours end up?
Yeah, mine is number 18. It is behind the original Top Gun and Edge of Tomorrow, and above Tucker and Dale versus Evil, also Real Steel. So, sorry, Hugh, he got you. So, but yeah, number 18. So, like, right, I have 30 films on here. Is that what you also have? 30?
Yep.
Okay, so yeah, so that's not including some of the TV shows we've watched, obviously, that are not on this list. But yeah, 18, and it is the best film on the list that has the word "spirited" in it.
Wow, that's crazy. It'll be funny to see how many people look for this episode and accidentally click the Spirited Away episode.
Away. Yeah. Uh-oh.
They're gonna be in for
round
an
2, baby.
unpleasant
Let's
surprise.
go. I'm ready.
As far as IMDb's more like this options, we're going to go over a couple of films, and Phil's going to answer yes or no. Would you prefer to watch this film over Spirited? So, Phil, would you rather watch Spirited or Elf?
Spirited. Spirited 10 times, and if you made me watch Elf on the 11th, I would just off myself.
Okay, well, that's hot take. Would you rather watch Spirited or The Santa Claus with Tim Allen?
Oh, I love the Santa Claus. I'm gonna have to go the Santa Claus. I really like that movie. Tim Allen sucks now, but at the time, boy,
he was good.
That's an all-timer.
Would you rather watch Spirited or The Santa Claus 3?
Is that the Santa Claus? The Santa Claus? The Santa Claus? The Santa Claus?
That's
like
the one with Jack Frost where you bought me the
Yeah.
fucking DVD to piss me off.
I forgot I did.
You fucking asshole.
I forgot I was going to buy Eric a copy of the Santa Claus 3 every year.
Yeah, I'm glad.
Definitely Spirited.
Would you rather watch...
I forgot I did that.
Yeah, because you're an asshole. It's okay. Get yourself together.
Oh, what's the next one?
Would you rather watch Spirited or How the Grinch Stole Christmas?
Which one?
Jim Carrey.
Oh, yeah, Jim Carrey. Grinch Stole Christmas, for sure. Yeah.
Would you rather watch Spirited or The Muppet Christmas Carol?
Oh, I love the Muppet Christmas Carol. You can't say no to the Muppets, man. Come on, they're the Muppets.
All right, this is the last one. I already know the answer. Would you rather watch Spirited or Jingle All the Way?
Jingle All the Way. Put that cookie down.
Oh, no.
Now. Oh, she's in the shower. You want me to go get her? No.
No.
I mean, no. No. Just tell her on your way out.
Out.
Oh, what a great movie. That's a 5 out of 5, just in case you guys were were curious.
We're the only
Way.
fucking people who quote that, too.
You know, I'm surprised Jingle All the Way hasn't gotten the remake treatment. It would definitely be Kevin Hart and The Rock. It would absolutely be those two, and they would ruin it.
They would. Phil, I think now is the time where we tell our audience to get out.
Get out! Get the hell out! Get out! Get out! Get out! Okay. Get out! Get out!
We are now going to get into spoilers, and as
You
someone
literally
who saw the
cannot
film,
watch the movie knowing these two things. You cannot watch it, so please.
I do think it actually, like, if you're gonna watch it, it does ruin the experience. So, Phil, as the person who saw the movie, and the one thing I remember you telling me was that this movie was not going to be exactly what I expected, and kind of hinting at some of the twists. Where do you want to go first? And I'll kind of let you lead the start of the conversation, because you watched it first, and you kind of led me to this watch.
Yeah, let's just do them in order. So the first reveal being that Will Ferrell is the original Unredeemable. And that's why I think Unredeemable, I really, really love that song, because it is very impactful in terms of his character, and that we learn he is the original Scrooge. Which has he played Scrooge in a movie? I feel like I've seen that look as far as him before. Maybe it's just like he played like a really disgruntled old man, like in Saturday Night Live.
Like an
that's
SNL,
probably,
SNL
that's probably
skit.
what it was, because the look fit him very, very well. So that was the first big reveal, is that he was the original Unredeemable, the original Scrooge, who all of this is based upon. So again, it is not a original telling of A Christmas Carol, but it is a retelling, a satire of it. And I thought that worked very, very well. It was certainly something I was not expecting, and it makes sense as to why he is so adamant about wanting to make Clint Briggs like his project. He sees something in Clint that he saw in himself, and he thinks that Clint could end up being something very, very special, and he does, as we'll talk about in a moment.
Yeah, so I love the whole kind of aspect that they're doing this whole prep for the whole year, and that they're doing this every single year, and the showmanship and the theatricalness of it all. Like, I just thought that really, really worked. Again, playing to the strengths of a musical, setting-wise, I thought that was, like, really creative. I thought that was really interesting. When we get to the movie itself, and where things start to pick up, is once Ryan Reynolds is introduced, and bringing back Christmas happens. Like, Ryan Reynolds, very, very charming, very, very good. There was a lot of stuff that I feel was working, and then there were things that I didn't. One of the things I wanted to talk about was kind of that dark place that we go. He's obviously an asshole, and we know the message of like cyberbullying and all of that stuff, and getting canceled and all of that, right? The kid dying and like killing himself fit in the narrative, but it was just like such a dark place to go that, like, I don't know. Again, the movie is just cracking a lot of jokes up until then, and then we kind of take a turn. Then the only other time we get anything kind of close to that is like when he's having to deal with the trauma of his sister. But I don't know, like, it just didn't feel like there was enough for him to be redeemed. I think that's what comes into it. Now, the fact that he dies at the end, I was good with that. I needed that to happen. In fact, one of the characters says, like, yeah, there needs to be consequences. And I really appreciated that. I really thought they were going to let him live and not get hit by that bus. So I'm glad that happened. But, like, I don't know. Again, the three main things are that, like, he kind of deals with the loss of his sister. He stops his, niece or whatever. He stops her from, making this big mistake. But he doesn't even really do it. It's Kimberly who does it. So, again, I don't feel like there was enough for me to really think he was redeemed. And maybe that wasn't the point, but those were my thoughts on it.
Yeah, and I think the original tale of, like, A Christmas Carol in and of itself is pretty dark. Like, if it were just to be told and presented in its original state now, I think when you go back and watch it, you're like, man, this is a pretty messed up film. But, yeah, to go back to what I was saying, Ryan Reynolds and Will Ferrell are not the correct faces to portray this message that you were trying to present. And it's very, very dark, and for them to just completely dive into it, I think it would be very shocking for families that thought they were just throwing on a musical, a silly musical with Will Ferrell. Oh, look, he was an elf, and look, it's Deadpool, even though they probably haven't let their kids watch Deadpool because it's anti-Semitic. But yeah, I totally agree with you. I think in that moment it works, and I think that's probably why Octavia Spencer is there, to kind of bring them down a little bit, but it's not like she's interacting with all three of them all the time, so she's not this vessel, this third party that can bring them back down to earth and call them out on their silliness, because she's just not there. So maybe that would have worked a little bit better, but like you said, yeah, it's her that ends up essentially saving the day. And to go to the next part, yes, definitely loved the Ryan Reynolds character not making it. It is again another great turn for him and Will to essentially switch roles, and for him to take all of that he learned. Like you said, there has to be consequences for him to then be in the role that he was in, that Will Ferrell was in, and get to visit his friend like all the time and stuff like that. All that was really, really sweet. See him with his kids and everything. Have some questions about mortality and how old Will Ferrell's character is, but we're not gonna think too hard about that. It's a silly Christmas movie, but yeah, really, really love the fact that, you know, in a day and age where there's no consequences in anything that we watch, even like when it comes to like anime. So the fact that there were consequences in this, and ultimately he did have to pay a price, I really enjoyed that. So yeah, 2 really solid twists. And I think probably if you had kept those and maybe delivered either, I don't know, a less serious message, or if you had, again, that vessel to help us guide us to that really dark turn, this probably elevates it even more. But again, when we're hardly ever surprised by anything, I was certainly surprised by those 2 things.
I'd agree with that. The other thing I wanted to bring up, which I don't know if this is a hot take, but I didn't really love the Will Ferrell Octavia Spencer relationship. Like, it was heartwarming, but like, I just don't think it was very effective for the movie. So when we talk about like space for some of those other darker themes, if you wanted to really explore them and make them part of the film, I feel like we could have taken that out. I don't think we really had to have that. So very curious what you felt about it, because they have a couple, you know, they have some interactions together, a song together. What are your thoughts on their relationship?
Yeah, I don't really like or dislike it. It's just kind of there. I didn't mind their song either. I think it's The View from Here. I didn't mind that song either. But as far as is in terms of a relationship, I think the payoff at the end is very sweet. But the build up and the courtship and all of that, it's just kind of there. So I don't really like or dislike it. So I know that's not a hot take, but it's just like it is, you know, it exists. So yeah, I didn't really feel one way or another. Yeah, you could probably have dedicated that to something else. I guess if you take that out, you then have to have a different character be the middle ground for Will Ferrell and the real world, right? So I don't know how you would rewrite that. I don't know if you have any ideas, but I think it was just a way for him to interact with somebody, you know, that's actually there.
What I'll say is, the way I thought the movie was going was that Clint was going to be so unredeemable, especially after Good Afternoon. I thought Will Ferrell was going to go back to being Scrooge, like a version of Scrooge. So what I was thinking was, when Will Ferrell would probably do the retire thing, and then Clint would have to deal with him in real life and see that a person could be like way worse than me. and then he would have to play the role in real life that Will Ferrell was playing. And I did eventually think that would lead to him dying and then being, you know, the ghost of Christmas Present.
The new ghost. Yeah.
Yeah. So I would have been really excited to see him have to redeem Will Ferrell again.
I love that.
But
yeah. Just
I
him being
thought that
really
would have been a
mean to
creative way to
orphans.
do it. I mean, listen. What was it? He was like, what were the other names he was trying to do other than Tiny Tim? I couldn't remember. He was like,
man.
he couldn't remember the name. But that's what that was where I thought it might have been able to go.
Yeah.
But I like the twists and turns that we got. I just think how we got there was more of the issue for me.
Yeah, just a couple decisions, again, holding this back from being truly, truly great. But again, still a very, very fun movie. I hope to God that you didn't stick around for that if you haven't watched it. I guess maybe you weren't ever going to watch it, so maybe you were just curious about what the twist was. But Eric, anything else you want to mention on this episode? A good start to the holiday season, and very excited for our next couple of episodes, and ready to watch an international film that, once again, as I've talked about here on the podcast, is like the international Christmas movie. So excited to watch that, and fingers crossed for an older film.
Yeah, those are very hit or miss. So fingers crossed for sure. No, that's really all I have. Again, really glad I finally got to watch this. It's been on. It's caught my eye before. You brought it up multiple times. So this was a perfect fit for a very busy month of December for us. So I would recommend, if you're still here, again, you've probably already seen the film, but if for some reason you stayed around, I would still check it out. Check out the rest of our library. We got a lot of stuff for December. And Phil, I'll let you take it from here.
Yeah, everyone, we appreciate you hanging out with us here for the December edition of Late to the Party. If you want to find all the rest of our content, whether it's more Late to the Party episodes or just in general, make sure you click the Linktree link in the show notes of this episode. You'll find all the rest of our content, including social media pages, the most important ones to keep up with being Instagram, TikTok, our growing Discord page, Twitch, where we will be returning here in the month of December, and all of that. We would love to interact with you over there. You can support the podcast a couple of different ways. You can head on over to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you are listening, and leave us a 5-star review. You can share the content, tag us, tag other people, let us know that you are listening, and all of that goes a very, very long way. But as we turn the corner into a new year, if you're finding yourself wanting more Wait For It podcast under the Christmas tree or the holiday tree, whatever it is that you celebrate, Eric will let you know a little bit more about that.
Well, if you are in a giving mood, all the free stuff is great. That little bit extra, though, helps support the show. And you could do that multiple different ways. The way I'd recommend is through our Patreon, where patrons like T3 Cato, Stefan, Breyer, and Corey are supporting us, and in exchange getting behind the scenes and early access to episodes like this one. So you're able to do that through Patreon. You could also donate directly to our Buzzsprout page, or again, all the free stuff is very much appreciated. The likes, the comments, the shares, the listens, the engagement, all of it goes a long way with growing the show, and we truly appreciate that support as well. With all that being said, my name is Mr. Eric Almighty. That is my co-host, Phil the Filipino. And please don't forget, we release new episodes of the podcast every Wednesday with bonus content on platforms like TikTok and Twitch. And all you got to do is wait for it.
So, I heard you're looking for a go-to source for entertainment. Wait for it. Gaming? Wait for it. Anime? Plus Ultra! Mr. Eric Almighty and Phil the Filipino? Yeah, they've got you covered. And all you gotta do is wait for it. This is the Wait For It podcast.